I'm trying to think. Not much has changed within our format since you came on. A lot in the world has changed. So, any questions or concerns?
No,
Bef-
no, all
okay,
set.
sounds good. Rhyme or free, it doesn't matter to me. It's my bad poetry. Good day and welcome to My Bad Poetry, a podcast where we take a deep dive into our poems from youth, yesteryear, or even yesterday, always asking the question, why in the world did I write this? I'm Aaron,
And I'm Dave.
and today we have with us our first guest back from a short break. For his second time, the author of Third Renunciation, hoping something will spring forth to make this ordinal joke work, or maybe I'll switch to cardinal numbering and try to kill two birds with one stone, which sounds like a murder of birds, but to be sure, we'll keep counting crows. Matthew E. Henry, welcome back to My Bad Poetry.
Thank you for having me. You pulled off that joke.
I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was sitting there taking deep breaths and counting, but apparently that didn't help me calm down for some reason, Aaron.
Well, I was like, I have to get back to counting crows because we talked about how much of a fan you are of counting crows. So, yeah.
It all came together. I think it worked. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Don't encourage him. Come on.
Well, that was an intro that barely scratched the surface of all of your cardinal virtues, Matthew. So is there anything else that you would like to say to our dear listeners who might not have caught your first time here?
I think I think our first one was in 2022. I think since then,
Yeah, it was.
I've had one micro chat published through Go City Press. Have you heard the one about? And I had another full length published called Set the Frog to the Scorpion from Hardware Editions. And I have another full length coming out, maybe fingers crossed, at the end of this year from Wayfarer Books called, I should remember. Oh, Promises to Keep. I know my books are entitled. Yeah, that's a thing.
That is awesome.
You gotta start working harder because you're just not publishing nearly enough.
I figure,
Holy cow!
we're all going to die one day, so I might as well get it done like now since I can't do it later. So, yeah.
How do you do that? That's so much writing, and that's incredible.
Yeah.
I just write every day and try to make it suck a little bit less every time. That's my goal.
You know, a good strategy.
No.
What's this new book about?
I see you haven't practiced the elevator pitch yet. It
Sure.
is it was actually a manuscript I was working on in my MFA program, and in a nutshell, it is a modern prophet, like living today, has been called, and he's read the source material and is like, no, I don't want to do this, but gets sort of Jonah trapped into it.
I
And
love
it's
this.
just sort of him trying to live through the calling and showing up at like immigration deportation sites and getting arrested, and showing up at school board meetings and getting arrested, and showing up at protests and getting arrested. So it's all of those sort of things while familial tragedies are happening, and his brother's a preacher who doesn't like what he's doing. So it's like all of the different parts of like the prophet's journey in the Hebrew Bible in a
Yeah.
modern context, and getting arrested a lot really is what happens. Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
That's so
Thank you,
cool.
thank you.
Well, to get us into the realm of bad poetry, Dave, before you leave us on this show,
Yeah.
just for today, folks, we're not sending him off in any. But before you leave us today, how about you bring us into the realm with your hastily written poem?
Yes. This is a poem called Ouch, which I believe is a title I've used like 5 or 6 times before, but I'm not creative, so too bad. The wheat slams on the walls, the kernel bouncing down halls, cotyledon needs a cot to lie down in. A millstone presses seeds as it pounds. That's my grain. My grain. My grain.
Ah, snaps
Yep.
from Matthew.
I had a migraine yesterday and was like, what the heck does that word mean? Because all I get is migraine. And that's stupid enough for me to goof around with.
That was fun.
I'm here for it. I like it.
Yeah. So were you using the image of like a mill grinder? Is that kind of what was going on? Okay.
So like I kind of the wheat in a grain silo pressing against the walls.
What was the fancy
Bouncing
word that
out
you
of the-
used?
Cotyledon.
Yeah. What's that?
It's a part of a seed.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was very proud of that, and I read it to my wife when I did the cotyledon cot to lie down in. And the groan that came out of her was like some feral demon from the pits of hell. Just like, you absolute idiot. It was pretty good. Made me happy.
Yeah. Well, between my intro joke and your cotyledon cot to lie down in, we're off to a very good start.
We're killing it on the almost kind of not really a pun.
Yeah. Well, Matthew, any other words of wisdom for Dave's fast written poem?
I mean, I enjoyed it thoroughly, so I have no notes at all.
So what you're saying is I should work on a chapbook just entirely on like headache puns?
Yeah, I mean, I feel that the pharmaceutical industry will be right behind it to sell products. Not saying that
This
the
poem is brought to you by
headaches.
Aleve.
If you suddenly notice that Dave's voice drops off the call, he is swamped with work right now, so...
Because, I was gone for a migraine, so now I have 2 days worth of work to catch up on.
Hey, well, you can write a sermon in that time. That's fine.
No, I can't. We'll see what happens. I'm so sorry that I have to leave, but thank you for joining our podcast. And, I'm so sorry that I'm leaving you with Aaron.
I'm sorry, too.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
Bye, Dave. Well, Matthew, let's get into what you have brought for us today. You've been on the show before, so you know what to expect. I expect nothing less as far as the bad poetry goes.
Thank you, I think.
I think
Compliments? Yeah.
it was supposed to be a compliment, but it's your quality of recognizing bad poems should also reflect on your quality of recognizing the good poems that you write. There you go.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. So, what's this first one that you have brought for us today?
So context. All the ones that I brought are a manuscript that I'm currently shopping in the world. And these are poems that, for obvious reasons, were pulled out of it. When I wrote them, I thought they were fire. Like, I thought they were good. And so the context of the collection, it's a collection of ekphrastic poems. So all of them are based off of other poems and paintings and sculptures and TV shows and movies and songs. And like the collection itself is looking at the human condition, and it's roughly going from like the Hebrew Bible into the New Testament and like wrestling with race and religion and all these things. And I thought these poems were good. And yeah, they're not. So the first one is, it's entitled Life is Bigger Than You. It's taken from the REM song, Losing My Religion. It is an erasure poem. And yeah, it's an erasure poem. That's bad.
Okay.
Life is bigger than you. And you are not me. I set up the light. My try to keep you laughing. I hear you whisper confessions to keep hurt lost and blinded. Consider this the hint, the slip that brought the failed what-if fantasies you sing. I saw you in the corner losing the religion you can. Try to keep it. I haven't said enough, I thought. But that was just a dream. And for those who can't see the poem, the me's are capitalized because it is supposed to be like God speaking, which just makes it that much worse. Right, which is not obvious at all.
Yeah, okay.
There's a reason it got cut from the manuscript. But again, at the time, I was like, yeah, this is doing something.
Okay. So yes, the me and the my. Okay. Interesting. You know, if I didn't have the context of an erasure of losing my religion, I'm wondering if I would catch it. I think by the third stanza with I saw you in the corner losing the religion,
Right.
at that point, it might probably would ring a bell. Yeah. Okay. So life is bigger than you. You're coming from God's perspective. Is this your attempt at like Job through the whirlwind?
So that very astute. So like where this was, I mean, literally where this was in the collection was in the Jobin section.
Okay.
And then like other poems where like Job, like it pretty much humans going like, WTF God, what's going on? World is terrible. And this is one of the poems where like God is responding from the whirlwind in a nicer way. I ended up cutting this, and there are other poems in there that are more like the Bible, where it's like, shut up, Job. Who are you to ask any questions at all? So this got cut for multiple reasons.
Okay. So maybe within the context of the other poems, the perspective of it being God's voice would be a little more apparent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, one of the reasons that I don't like it is that it doesn't stand on its own. Like you need all the context of the other poems to really understand what it's doing. And then when you realize it is an erasure from, a very famous song, it just gets worse and worse.
I think so. It's like you're using a great song, and I'm not sure if, usually you want an erasure to like add something or like bring something else to light. And in this context, I might rather prefer to just listen to the song again.
Oh, you act like I didn't listen to the song and watch the music video while watching this multiple times. I thought I was doing something.
Right. Well, at least you picked a good song to go on repeat for sure.
Indeed.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So I'm curious, as you were putting together these Jobian poems, were you like, what would be a fun source would be this REM song? Or was it you thought of this poem first and then, I'm just kind of wondering, did this come together as you were working on the other ones, or how did?
Yeah, no, this was, I think the collection was the collection as a whole was mostly done. And I think it like the song just popped up somewhere in my playlist, and I was like, oh, this song, that line, that would be perfect. And then I like created it, and then within, I don't know, a month was like, why did you do that? This is the reason we can't have nice things. Just don't do that anymore.
You followed that artistic yearning, and you did something. I mean, way to go.
That was my writing for the day. I got my hours or my word count up, and then learned, no, sometimes certain things should just stay away from public consumption.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. Perfect for this show, but
Exactly.
maybe not for a chapbook or a full length. I'm also curious here. I don't have the lyric sheet in front of me. Maybe you have the album, but is the "what if" italicized anywhere, or was that a poetic choice?
That was a poetic choice. That was supposed to be God asking, God referring to our what if scenarios that we will raise because of all things being evil and not good as we would like it.
The slip that brought the failed what if. So that curse God and die, cry to the sky type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the theology of the poem, I think, stands up.
It does.
The poem as a whole is just garbage. That's
I like the intent. I see where it's going after you pointed out this is God's perspective. But yeah, it does not hold up on its own.
I mean, that's what you want from a poem, that the poet is there explaining every single line. And that's how you know that it stands up. That,
for sure.
Like a joke.
If it was well footnoted and like had like a second page that had a poet's intent.
Yep.
It would be perfect.
And that's exactly what you want from poetry. I mean, I think like many poetic journals are going to go in that direction where like none of the poems can stand on their own. They have to explain image by image, line by line. And I'm here for that. It's good.
Yeah. This is groundbreaking, you know? Just I'm also curious. You are kind of sparse on the punctuation. This is just a general question as far as erasure goes. When you're doing an erasure, do you feel that it is, I mean, and maybe song lyrics, you're a little more, it's a little more loosey-goosey because it, like, there might not be a definitive print of it.
Yeah.
But say you're doing an erasure, are you comfortable playing with the punctuation? Or do you tend to use the punctuation that's there, especially if you're using like a newspaper article or something?
Yeah, I mean, for all the erasures I've done, punctuation of the original almost never matters to me. I think I've done a few, and in general, unless there's a question that I am preserving from the original, punctuation doesn't matter. I can do whatever the heck I want with it, and usually the person's not alive to do anything about it. So yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense. If you're already reconstructing new sentences, I mean,
Yeah.
you might as well. But yeah, I'm just noticing you have a nice little M dash in there.
That's my catnip. I just like M dashes in general. That's just my personal flourish.
I think I'm obligated to ask, are you a Dickinson fan then? Or?
I became more of one because she uses M dashes, like so.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Like I couldn't hate on her and not. Yeah.
This is fascinating because I think other poets we've had on the show, they fell into the habit of using M dashes in honor of Dickinson. And what I'm hearing you say is your love of the M dash made you better like Dickinson. Oh, that's fun.
I mean, she was definitely like one of the, because for most people, one of the first poets I was exposed to back in elementary school. But she is someone who I came back to later on and was like, oh, okay, I see what you were doing. Yeah. She's cooking. That's good. Yeah.
You teach poetry, right?
I mean, I teach high school English, so like it's a part of the curriculum, but I don't teach the creative writing class anymore.
Got it. Okay. I was going to say, and this is way off topic, but if you had to a choice of a poet you would like to introduce your students to that's not like standard curriculum, who would you go to?
I mean, I do that so I teach seniors, and so I get to do that all the time.
Sure.
Because there's no one looking over my shoulder, and so I often am introducing them to just folks I know from the poetry world. So like Melissa Fite Johnson, Joan Quan Glass, Mitch Nobis, like they're just folks who I know.
Yeah.
Great work. And a lot of them are also teachers. So I get to, support my teacher writer friends.
Yeah. I love that because it reminds students that it's a living art.
Yeah.
Not just a bunch of old dead white dudes who wrote by a pond.
Though I am in New England, not that far from Walden, so they get that junior year.
I'm sure they do. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is very inspired by the Hebrew poets. I'm not seeing a lot of the parallelism of Hebrew poetry, but we can let that pass.
The ones that made it into the collection have more of that in it.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. So you do mirror some of the prophets, kind of nice. Oh.
And the collection that's coming out this fall, since it was part of my, actually I said in my MFA program, that was wrong. That was actually from my seminary degree when I was studying the Hebrew prophets.
Sure.
So yeah, a lot of those mirror a lot of the parallel structure, a lot.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's one of my favorite things to point out in like Bible studies is like, this is a different type of poetry, but once you see it, the patterns are all there. Speaking of scripture, I'm seeing that our next one here has a reference to Matthew 11. So how about we move into A New Hope? Yeah.
And so it says that it's A New Hope is a title. It's a Midrash Katan from Matthew 11:12. Midrash Katan is a phrase I made up. I'm popularizing it, trademark.
I was trying to parse that.
Yeah, so it's taken from the concept of the Midrash Rabbah, the great Midrash. And since mine aren't that important, I just came up with Midrash Katan. So I have a few of those published that are out in the world, but this is one that will never see the light of day. Another ekphrastic work that is built off of a piece of porcelain pottery. And for context, you've got the link right there. You can look at it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it looks like an AT-AT Walker from Star Wars. So it's like an AT-AT Walker that's set up like, an old church in like the American Southwest. So I was at a museum and I saw this and I was like, well, I've got to do something with this. I'm a black sci-fi nerd who also likes Bible things, and this seems to be speaking of oppression. So yeah, A New Hope. And it's a sonnet, I should point out. Say the kingdom of God comes with violence, force being how heaven takes the dominion promised before Eden was sod. No need for meek humility. His empire strikes back against those in rebellion, threats against his design to bring order and balance to the galaxy. Therefore, all things are lawful when saving savage souls for their own good. If he destroys stars, silence moons, it's justice, right made by might. If breath must be blue squeezed from the lungs of those who lack of faith he finds disturbing, we should not fear, but rejoice that power, unlimited power, has come at last. So bad. Obviously, I've never read that out loud before. And have mostly forgot that I had written this.
Matthew, you brought this to the wrong person because I love this book. I mean, all the Star Wars references throughout, the fact that it's also against like Christian nationalism. I mean, like it's like the perfect Venn diagram. Oh, this is amazing.
Maybe I'll try to rehab this poem and like spell some of the words in it right.
Yeah. Yeah, fear is fur.
Fur.
You even have alliteration. I mean, saving savage souls. This is incredible. Okay. So I was raking my brain. Matthew 11.
The kingdom of God suffer violence, and the violence take it by force is the King James version of it. I think like the NRSV is something along, or NIV is something along the lines of the kingdom of God comes swiftly or comes quickly. But it's like the King James is what I was raised with. The
Sure.
Force.
Yeah. You're playing with that off the first line.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Did you write this with like the very toxic Christian nationalism in mind, or because that's what I heard, but maybe I'm reading into this.
No, I mean I did, but like I still wrote this prior to our current administration. Though I mean Christian nationalism has been around for way too long.
Way too long. Yeah.
It just feels like it's more. The poem is more salient now in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the fact that you wrote this before we've seen kind of I would say the most
egregious.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the most egregious practices of this kind of Christian power. The fact that you wrote this before that is, I mean, again, it's prophetic, but it's also maybe it's aged a little better than you thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, here's the thing. You have capitalized his in this one. So are you trying to depict a wrathful God?
So I think I'm going off of the his is God, but this is more from that perspective of the person who believes in this sort of God. Like I'm watching Endor right now, and it's like the Empire believes that the Empire is right. Like the people who are there are never thinking. Noam Chomsky had a phrase that he used about the scramble for Africa, where he said it's hard to consider yourself a son of a when you're stepping on someone else's neck. Like you have to believe you're doing it for their own good.
Yeah.
And I was like. And I use that with my students. I was like, that's so profound. Like, you generally believe that you're in the right. You never think the Empire is wrong. So, like, if this is the God that, quote unquote, this is the God that you serve, obviously God is on your side. And this is what God must also feel. So we must, manifest destiny. We must destroy. We must AT Walker across things. And therefore, the Emperor is like, unlimited power. That's what we have. And we should be using it.
Join me.
Yes.
Okay, you brought this to my bad poem, and you cringed after you read it. again, I'm reading this from a nerdy pastor's perspective. Tell me, what about this made it stay on the cutting room floor as you were putting together this book?
I think it was two things. One, I don't know how I feel about like the verse that it's based off of, since it is off of like the King James version more than like a version that I would read more. That was part of it. And also part of it was, I don't know, the level of the level of Star Wars references that were making me cringe, even though I do love it myself. I was like, I don't know if this stands up for someone who's not a Star Wars nerd who doesn't get the references. Will the poem still work? So like almost every other line is a quote from somewhere within the franchise. And so if someone doesn't see all of those things, would they just be like, this doesn't cohere? So that was my.
That's fair. Yeah. Unfortunately, with a lot of poetry books and ekphrastics, you can't use a picture of what you're referencing.
Right.
So that AT-AT church sculpture would also be that second step that people would have to make for this poem to make sense.
Right.
So it's like two leaps before people might really be able to enjoy what this is trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, they could easily like look up the Matthew reference. And they would stumble upon like this is Star Wars-ish, possibly, but
by the end, yeah, you have Empire Strikes Back referenced within there, and then by the end, unlimited power. I mean, again, yeah, I think I would say most people, Star Wars is pretty ubiquitous. The title is New Hope. Right. So A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, hopefully, even like the most lay person to Star Wars lore would be like, oh, I think this might be a Star Wars.
Is this Star Trek? Is this guy? What is this?
Is there
Gandalf going to appear?
Did you specialize in the prophets? It seems to be kind of your go-to thing with your writing in your MDiv.
Yeah, my seminary degree was a Hebrew Bible focus with theology and the arts, like double concentration. But then within that, like the prophets. So I was going there to study poetry, and then like a lot of my professors were like, you realize that the prophets were really the first like slam poets, that like they were performance poets. And I was like, tell me more. And so the more I was reading about like the contexts of like the Hebrew poets, I was like, oh yeah. Let me do that. So spent a lot of time with like Abraham J. Herschel's work. I was hooked from there.
Oh man, yeah, his work, the Prophets, is seminal. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. Oh wow. Okay, so the blue squeezed, is that supposed to be a subtle reference to blue milk? What's going on there?
No, that was supposed to be a subtle reference to the what am I forgetting? The Sith Force choke? The blue lightning, blue squeeze, and also his what's his face? Whose neck? The colonel whose face was turning blue as he was being choked out.
Yeah. Vader's kind of holding him up against the wall. Yep. Okay, got it. Now, why a sonnet?
So, well, the third renunciation, those are all.
Oh yeah, those were all sonnets, weren't they? Yeah,
they were all sonnets. Yeah, okay. And they all started with "say," and most of them were not titled. And so, the collection that I'm working on, there are almost no sonnets in that one. But this is what I tried to sneak in, and then immediately pulled back up.
So, was this an attempt during Third Renunciation, or were you just kind of running with the same structure into this next project?
Same structure. Yeah.
Okay. Because Third Renunciation is powerful.
Thank you.
I have so many of those poems dog-eared.
Thank you.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, did you bring another one?
I did.
Oh, perfect. Let's do that.
Again, I was so proud of this at the time. And again, this is based off of a work of art that I forgot what museum it's in, entitled "If We're Being Honest." It's the narrowing of medieval eyes, the blue bulge of vein beneath the ruffled brow, the slight curl of lip which portrays his thoughts, reading his feast day's epistle. Stigmata on hands and feet, he boasts only in the cross of his crucified Savior, believes the stripping of foreskins means less than following peace and mercy with all, the newness of life granted by God. But his expression belies this truth, shows this holy man has already read Paul's desire for a botched circumcision to befall those with whom he disagrees. I mean, it was a struggle to take this one out. Like, part of me still, I mean, the collection hasn't been picked up yet, so I might put this one back in actually, now that I'm reading it again. But it's another one of those that I think requires more context than people have. And so, like, so the paint. So this is what happened was the painting. I saw it in the museum, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And like, I'm describing it.
Francis of Assisi. Okay.
Francis of Assisi.
Yeah.
What he's reading is the Galatians passage, I think it is, where Paul says, like, yeah, like if people don't agree with me, F y'all, like, you're gonna botch circumcision. And I just like the idea that like that is what was chosen for St. Francis of Assisi's feast day, sort of belies everything that he is. And so I was trying to capture that, those two things. But again, it's like insider baseball that's in my head that I haven't really explained in the poem fully.
Yeah, that would be, I think this is way more insider baseball than your Star Wars one.
Right, exactly.
I mean, you're making jokes about circumcision, which already, like, you've lost half the folks. But I think the fact that St. Francis of Assisi is known for his prayers on, like, make me a vessel of your peace.
Yeah.
And then to know the scroll is upside down and it's in Greek. Is that Greek? Yeah, that's Greek. So you'd have to just know from the description of the painting what section he's reading.
Right.
Ooh, yeah, that's a lot.
But again, I love the fact that someone made that decision. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go with the botched circumcisions. That's gonna stand for the feast day. It made me actually laugh when I was in the museum, and I was like, I've got to write a poem about this, and this is what I came up with.
I actually am. I have not seen very many depictions of St. Francis with the stigmata. Is that a common thing?
No, I don't think. I mean, like the one that I've seen the most often is the like St. Francis with the birds, and most of those I mean, well, the birds are covering his hand, so maybe
that's true. But
also, I'm a horrible person because immediately I thought they can't show that because then the bird seed would be falling through his hand. They decided not to depict it that way because it's kind of hard to be hospitable when the birds are like, bro, it's all on the ground. Why do this to us?
Oh wow. I'm looking at this painting. Where is this at?
Worcester Museum of Art, I think.
Oh, cool. You saw this and saw the passage and thought, yes.
Yeah.
This poem needs to be written. Where did the title come from? If we're being honest.
That was just like the thought that went through my mind as I started writing it. I was like, if we're being honest, like this is what must be going through his head. Obviously, I have no idea. I think it was the expression on his face the way I read the expression on his face was that this was going through his head being like, bro, what? Like, this is what they've chosen for my feast day? Have they read the entire thing? Seriously? Paul is like, if you don't agree with me, I hope it, the knife.
I hope it hurts. Yeah.
Like, this is not what I stand for. So, yeah.
Yeah. Or, to play devil's advocate, maybe Francis of Assisi had to pray to be a vessel of peace so often because he understood Paul's anger.
That I get behind. That was it the thorn in the flesh that he asked to be removed from is like being a sarcastic, horrible person, which completely fits with like, Paul. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Paul is very sarcastic.
Yeah.
By no means. Oh, wow. You know, as very niche as this is, the more you live with it, I could see where you might be tempted to try and sneak this back in a manuscript that you're floating around. It's weird enough. It makes you think.
That's what I go for. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
I want people to like think about things, but the teacher that I am says you need to give enough like comprehensible input and context so they can actually access it, which most of these poems have not done.
Yeah. It'd be so much easier if physical books had a hyperlink
Yeah.
capability like this doc where I could just pull up the picture. But
Yeah.
the structure of this 4 and then 7-4 as far as the lines go. As you think back on how you wrote this poem, was there something that did you want believes the stripping of foreskin to be the central image of this poem? Because that's right in the dead center of this thing.
Um, I do remember like going back and forth on how to structure this one because like there were lines I did want to be by themselves. So like I wanted believes the stripping of foreskins, um, Paul's desire for a botched circumcision. Like there were lines I wanted to be alone. So it was like, how do I structure the rest of the poem that can happen?
Mm-hmm.
But like in terms of like it being 4, 7, and then 4, that just sort of happened at the
Sure.
end. I could make up a lie, but like, no, it's supposed to be a chiasm that it doesn't actually follow that structure at all.
Yeah, not quite, but it does have a beautiful chiastic structure, yeah. Where that central point within is believes the stripping of foreskin. It's in the prime spot for chiastic structure.
If I rewrite it, maybe I'll try and make that work.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's all it needs. That's all it needs. It needs
writing down
A
ideas.
prime, and all the way down to that stripping of foreskins. How many times can I say that on this show before? Gosh. Well, I love the poems that have brought today. I mean, they are quirky and weird and yeah, probably deserved the cutting room floor. Oh man, the cutting room floor for this.
The botched circumcision floor.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So I'm just I love your work. I think your writing you are a prophetic voice in this time, and I think that you write very convicting works, especially for folks who might consider themselves allies. You really push the line of like we can do more, we can be more present and more prophetic in kind of all that we say and do in all different types of contexts, even in nerdy ways like referencing Star Wars. It can be done. But I'm curious because this will come out a week ahead of time. There should still be time for folks to register, I think. Yeah, May 1st would be the last second, maybe.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about what's coming up here. All 4 of these incredible speakers have been on this silly little show. So
nice.
I think that's so cool. But The Divine. How did this come about?
So Francis Klein shot me an email or a message like a year or two ago with the idea, and I was like, yes. And then a week or two ago, it was like, hey, remember that idea? I was like, yes, I'm down. And like she asked, like, what are other people I could think of who would probably want to be a part of it? So I gave some names. She had some ideas also, and so yeah, it's really cool being able to work with all. And you asked before about people I would introduce to my students. I've introduced all of these people to students of mine.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it's really cool to be with. So like for those who aren't looking at the list, it's Francis Klein, Megan McDermott, Jared Beloff, and me.
Yeah. And this is going to be May 1st at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yep.
And it's poetry reading looking at engaging religion in poetry, which is something that all 4 of you have done in incredible ways and in very unique ways from different contexts and circumstances and even kind of faith traditions. So I love that. Again, if I could go, I would. I have another obligation, but this is something that I think everyone would benefit from checking out.
Yeah, it should be a wonderful night.
Yeah.
My goal is to be to not embarrass myself and just to like listen to like these wonderful poets do their thing because they're awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I doubt you could embarrass yourself.
I'm pretty sure you've listened to the poems that I just read.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But you're not sharing those. Well, I mean, they do engage religion and poetry.
Exactly.
So, if you have to fill time,
Yes.
I would suggest A New Hope. I would not read the If We're Being Honest.
Come on, bot circumcision.
I mean,
that's a crowd pleaser right there.
You could try it. Matthew, I fear we could talk forever because I would like to pick your brain on so many different things. So is there anything else that you'd like to like plug or talk about?
I would say that like in the midst of everything being broken and on fire and drowning all at the same time, that we are doing a good job, or that we should be doing a good job of just like checking on each other.
Yeah.
You know, the people who that we know might be in dire straits in a variety of ways, especially because of the things that are coming down from the administration. That we, you know, what's the old Kurt Vonnegut quote? The purpose of human life, no matter who is controlling it, is to love whoever's around to be loved. And I think sometimes people think that loving people just means let me take my ideology and beat other people in the face with it, when it could just be, you know, checking on folks, asking what they can, how we can be of service to them, how we can, you know, how we can love them the way that they need to be loved. I think especially those who claim faith should be on board with that and it not be a controversial or a left-wing, right-wing ideology. It's just love whoever's around to be loved.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
And for these incredible poems. I will not look for them in your next book, but I'm glad that you shared them with us. But I am looking forward to the next book that's hopefully coming out by the end of this year.
Yep.
It sounds incredible. Well, Matthew, before we let you go, we here at My Bad Poetry, we end each week with the words of a true poet. So would you be willing to read for us one of your poems that you are indeed very proud of?
Yeah. This is one that was just very recently published. And returning to the Jobin theme, one that did make it into the collection. It's based off of Maggie Smith's poem, Good Bones.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's what happened if Job had read that poem. Job confronts Maggie Smith at a conference. I love your poem, but your conservative estimate is far too generous. The world is more than 50% terrible. I cannot keep this from my children. They already know how short this life can be. How storms collapse brick and mortar and birthday cakes and skulls out of a clear blue sky. How a wife can deliver deliciously ill advice on how to shorten mine, after each of our children were broken like bricks I laid in their home, now crushing their chests. I tried greeting your words like an old friend at my door, but have previously, perhaps ill-advisedly, questioned the realtor about this shithole he's been selling, inquired after renovations. He chirped on and on about the foundation and resting place of every neighborhood bird and behemoth, leviathan and lizard, and the children I could have in a future that forgets the good bones of my first. Yes, this place could be beautiful, but life is not short enough when mud and clay and bricks can keep me from my children.
That's incredible.
I always end on a happy note. That's
Yes.
that's my bread and butter right there.
The death of children, you know, really an uplifting piece.
But another one of those reasons why I like, you know, what we're here for a short time. How are we taking care of those around us?
Yeah, yeah. And the book of Job is one of those that you can just, it's an endless well that you can go back to. You've clearly worked in the depths of that well. If there's a whole section on Jobian poems, I'm here for it. So that's awesome.
Either.
Yeah, and to engage again, an incredible poem by Maggie Smith that really flip it on its head is that's genius. I mean, that's really cool. That's very
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah, this has been my bad poetry.
Now go write some of your own bad poetry.
Brilliant. Well, Matthew, I'm sorry that Dave couldn't stick around again. He has to write a sermon. So
That is valid.
yes. Rhyme free doesn't matter.